Paul Shirey, JOBLO.com.
I love JOBLO.com. I'm serious.
Hell yeah.
We're going to take a Joe Blow job later.
You're scaring Paul.
We're going to finish with that. Now, first off, I have to say, Ryan, seriously.
Yes,
you fucking did it!
Ah, yeah, right?
You did do it.
Hit me, I'm open. Ow.
The movie is amazing. I loved it as a comic reader, as a fan, as a superhero movie fan. It fucking nails it. It's awesome. It really, truly is.
You're the audience that scares us the most. So you're the one that we made the movie for, and thankfully other people like it too.
No, I was talking to him earlier, and it's like it rips it right from the comic. It is the comic on film, which to me, and I know like other fans like me, it's like that's what we want. Yeah, and that's what our hope is.
That's the hardest sell, though. It's the hardest thing to get by a studio. So we felt like it was a miracle that we got to make this movie the way we got to make it. I felt like the studio really just wanted us to stop pestering them. It's been a decade of.
Fine.
Yeah, just a paper trail. One day we should release the emails back and forth to studio executives as a coffee table.
Many.
I want to
no
see
one
emails.
would be able to make
have Tim Miller. Have Tim Miller leak them.
Oh,
if that was
he's
possible.
very good at leaking things.
It couldn't even be a coffee table book. You need something that would, I love what you said earlier about it's like watching the comic, you know? I mean, that is sort of what it feels like. After doing the film and reading Deadpool comics, it feels like you're watching a version. And he couldn't be more perfect. Like, he is the voice of the Merc with a mouse, you know?
And it's funny is that when I read the comics, I read them in Ryan Reynolds' voice. And it's awkward for everybody when I read them out loud.
You read them out loud.
When I read the comics, I read them in Ryan Reynolds' voice as well.
How is that possible?
Yeah, they make terrific nursery rhymes for a 1-year-old, by the way.
So I have to ask, the marketing for this film, like, should win. There should be an Oscar category for marketing, and Deadpool should win.
I completely freaking agreed.
So, but I have to ask, I mean, how involved were you in the beginning? I mean, were you like, did they come to you and say, dude, we're just gonna go all in?
You know, it was funny. It was kind of like a weird marriage right at the beginning because we all sort of were on the same page at the same time. It was all in for me. Like, I mean, I have so much skin in this game that is Deadpool that, you know, for me it was like do or die. You know, like if I'd made a Deadpool movie that wasn't an authentic Deadpool movie, I should basically never ever show up in Hollywood again as long as I live. So thankfully,
which is how we all felt after Green Lantern.
Yes, thank you, TJ, for.
Thanks
there's
for
the open
wound.
Not only does he expose the open wound, he urinates in it.
I mean, he could have said X-Men Origins Wolverine, but he didn't.
I agree.
I thought you were great in that.
Actually, well, I like X-Men Origins Wolverine. I just didn't like how Deadpool ended up.
Honestly, I would have watched X-Men Origins probably more often if it was just you instead of Wolverine.
Oh yeah,
which is what Deadpool.
I mean, you had like the
honestly,
best. You had the best action scene in the entire film.
I literally, we would not be sitting here doing this interview right now if it wasn't for Hugh Jackman. I mean it. Like Hugh Jackman is the reason we got to make this movie. He's also been a huge supporter of Deadpool since day one. So
which is great because he, like Ryan Reynolds, really has a great sense of humor about himself and about this world, but still wants to be authentic and true to the Marvel universe.
But back to the marketing, they really made the marketing extension of the movie. So for me, it's been as much fun to do these viral videos and that sort of thing as it has been to shoot the film. It's just been like we just kept going.
I mean, everything that comes down, you're like, that's
fun.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's been really,
no other
really
movie
smart
is
people
doing
working
it.
over there. Yeah.
Yeah, seriously, they need an Oscar.
Yeah.
So the other thing I have to bring up is the bar scene between you guys. I mean, you guys obviously have like a lot of banter, a lot of craziness going on with that. And I know you've said like basically, are we going to see like an entire other movie of just you guys in the bar?
Well,
because I think there's like so much extra stuff.
I can't even imagine what the DVD extras on the movie like this is gonna be because there's so. I was in the edit room for the majority of the post-production process, and there's so many things that you kill your darlings. I mean, there's so many moments where you're like, we have to cut this out because it's either this or that. You can't have both, and it was frustrating and it killed me. But I also thought like, oh well, that's the power of the DVD these days, or the home entertainment digital version. You get to see everything After Effects. So there will be all that stuff will be in there.
But that
there's
was
a
so
gag
fun.
reel in this movie that's insane.
You know, just verbally sparring with someone of his comedic acumen was really spectacular, and it was nice too because Tim Miller said to us, you know, we've got this great script, but also let's riff and let's find out what works. And we really, that was like one of my favorite days of shooting.
You could actually
any type
release
of
a
film or
sequel that
television.
is just T.J. Miller's alternative jokes.
Many of which were Ryan saying, hey, try telling me this. This will really make me feel terrible. Yeah, right, exactly.
Okay, listen, guys.
Can I give you a blowjob?
Yes, please give me a blowjob.
Guys, are you kidding
I want you
me?
to take part in this blowjob as well.
Wow, this is like 8 p.m. in a New Orleans bar.
Oh shit.
Oh.
And
oh yes.
You can't finish without this.
With the whiskey.
There you go.
Yeah, we'll do this one here.
Cheers.
TJ, you have
to
yours,
Joe Blow.
right?
I am a huge fan of the site.
I am a huge fan of Joe Blow
That
as well.
is great to hear.
Canadians.
Joe Blowjob. This ain't Joe Blowjob. This is mine.
Oh my God.
Right?
Whew.
You're gonna go outside and power vomit.
Yeah.
That's what you're gonna do.
And it'll all be cream.
Yeah.
It'll all be cream.
Ryan, what is it about this character that has kept you putting on and trying to make this film the right way?
Well, honestly, it feels a little bit like an alter ego for me. It's always felt like that. It's always felt like just connected to the character from the first time I was introduced to him, and that was 11 years ago now. And I've been attached to it for about that long, in different iterations, different studios. Back in the Avi Arad days, who owned Marvel. It just got passed around over and over again. And then it just, for me, it's always the characters always occupied a space in the comic universe that no one else does. Being meta, being self-aware, being able to break the fourth wall, address the audience. Also, I love anything that follows pop culture continuity, and that's something that is huge in Deadpool's world. And that to me is some of the most fun. I think in a former life, I wished I was a late night talk show host or something. That's sort of what Deadpool is. He's like, no, that's true. That is true. I would love it. It's he's just a heavily armed late night talk show host. Is who Deadpool is. So yeah.
Now, how are you guys, let's start with, we're going to get to all of you, but how are you guys involved? I'm not really familiar with the comics, so I'm really excited to hear what you play.
Well, this may shock you, but I'm not too familiar with the comics either.
Oh.
No, I obviously know the characters. I think I play Vanessa Carlyle, who is his girlfriend. I say in quotes because these two people deserve each other. They're kind of made for each other. She gives him as much lip as he gives her, and I don't mean the talking part. Anyway.
You can drop the mic now. You can drop the mic. You just let it go. And then it hits the ground. It makes a great sound, and then everybody knows.
Brianna.
Thank you very much.
So I play Negasonic Teenage Warhead, and she is Colossus's trainee. So she's kind of like a sidekick, I guess, in a way. And her relationship with Deadpool is, I guess it's kind of like brother or sister, I guess, because they kind of like pick at each other a lot, but they're not like enemies, I guess. But yeah, that's what I play in the movie.
There's love there.
There's love there.
We'll pass that one.
Pass it down,
You're
girl.
the serious part of it, though.
What's that?
You're the serious guy.
Yeah, well, we had I mentioned this earlier, we have an English drawing room, tea and cucumber sandwiches scene. I bring a lot of the dramatic, the heavier moments that are really about what the film is about and what it's. Yeah, it's exactly right. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. You've seen, yeah, exactly, and he is the Dos Ex Machinas. Yes. You've seen my work in Yogi Bear 3D, so that's what I brought, that caliber of entertainment, of acting, truly acting.
Yes.
Yeah, acting out. Just I would knock over his coffee cups, a lot of horseplay.
Sometimes right in the middle of the scene, he'd just cry.
Wow.
Just cry. Right? You'd feel it.
I'm such a bad host that I only put in front of you when times you're talking.
Yeah. And then I went to.
You can see the chemistry. You can see the chemistry. You can see it. No, I played Weasel, who's kind of his best buddy, owns the bar where they all hang out, all the mercenaries. And so that was really fun. And it got to be it's a very different thing from stuff I'm doing on Silicon Valley. And I had glasses. I'm a very good actor, so my main choice was to wear glasses. And then that's exactly what you see right here in front of you today. Yeah, it was just a higher tone and pitch in the voice. So if you listen, this is TJ talking, and this is Weasel talking.
Dude,
It felt like you were. It felt like yeah. I'm the David Copperfield of comic book movies. I have weird hair. Yeah, I did. I brought myself all the way back to the sperm days.
Everyone was up in arms about the rating. We had fun on April Fool's Day with you guys about the
Yeah, you should. Thank you for that.
Oh, that was
Thank you for your help.
People loved it.
Yeah.
How important was it to you? I mean, obviously to stay true to the comics and straight to the humor,
It was paramount. I mean, for us, it was all about. That was everything. Getting the R rating was everything. I mean, frankly, I'd be lying if I said we were so intent on making Deadpool, we probably would have fought very hard for it, and not won the R rating and still pushed ahead. But man, the studio understood the advantages of that. They understood the audience for Deadpool, and they understood that Deadpool, like I said earlier, occupies a space in the comic book universe that no one else does. And in order to do that, you have to completely set yourself apart. So, the movies.
Be like really long series of beats.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, just the whole thing would just sound like Morse code. That
is a rarefied thing, though, that it's R-rated for a comic book movie, and so in that way, also it was like a lower budget. It's almost like an indie version of these huge things because they had to scale back to allow that R rating. But hopefully, it's a movie. I think it's going to be that will hit with more than just the R-rated audience. I think a lot of young children will like it. And a lot of very, very elderly people on their way out.
Now, how often do you guys
Or the Orlando cinema.
Yes, that's exactly right. Oh, Tilda Swinton's weird. Isn't she? She just seems weird.
How the hell did we start with
Tilda Swinton.
Oh, yeah. Yes, Tilda Swinton is not in the film.
That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah. She does not appear in Deadpool as far as we know. Yeah, she has done other feature films.
Because I randomly will spout out Tilda Swinton.
Really?
Yeah, all the time. It drives people crazy.
Robert Goulet. What happened? Where was I? What happened?
Strokes occasionally.
What happened?
As I said, I'm not very familiar with where do you fit in the world of Deadpool?
Well, Ajax and Angel Dust operate the workshop that Wade Wilson goes into and gains his superpowers from. It's the same program that Wolverine went through, Weapon X. We both went through that program ourselves. We weren't born with superpowers. We went through the program and gained them. We were ex-soldiers that were experimented on ourselves and gained our superpowers, and then went on to run the workshop and experimented on Wade Wilson and turned him into Deadpool. And that's why he should be thanking us instead of trying to fight us,
We create. We're artists.
Yeah. Thank you.
I would say that. You were so great in Halo. You're so great with the action. How big of a part of this will we be seeing? How much ass will you be kicking?
Well, actually, we both do a fair amount of ass kicking, I think. This is unlike anything I've done. I don't want to, give anything away, but I've never done something like this. So it's completely different than Haywire. And at first, it took a little getting used to, but I think I'm going to be happy with the final product.
How do you guys prepare for something like this? I mean, how much physical training, how much actual acting training did you have to do on both sides?
Well,
I mean, physically, there was an incredible amount of work for me because I'm not wearing a mask, so I was not able to. I did everything, and it is something I take pride in as well. But the film, the team that we had for the stunts and the action scenes were phenomenal. Phil Silvera is a genius. Big Phil, and he. This is for you, Phil. And is it? Oh, thank you. And he, Phil was the mastermind behind Daredevil, which is, a phenomenal TV series, and Iron Man, and he did some incredible stuff in Captain America. And then you got Rob Alonzo, who's Tom Cruise's right-hand man. So we were in incredible hands. And I would spend a lot of time working with them. I was working predominantly with two-handed, with two axes. I don't want to give too much away, but I had to work really hard to get my left hand as good as my right hand, and it's difficult stuff, and we did a lot of work with wires and gimbals, and there's a lot of CG stuff, and as Gina kind of alluded to, both of us were kind of the combat that we've done previously is rooted in reality, so to then be superhuman,
your body language is different. Your punches everything is so much different, and when you're doing those realistic fight scenes, you don't want to make them. You want to put your flavor into it and flow a little bit. Well, this is going the opposite direction and really looking strong, superhuman strength and adrenaline, and it's actually really difficult. Well, I found it a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, in some ways, but you imagine Gina Carano when she's a human. And then imagine her as a superhuman. Imagine how strong and how much ass she kicks. Like, she was phenomenal. I remember coming out, it was a double-edged sword with Gina, because it was like, I said to the guy that was training me, Bob Breen, who's a phenomenal, who's my guru in London, who trained me in his style of combat, 4D combat, which is Kali, Filipino knife stick fighting, JKD, and kickboxing. And I said to him, I can't wait to train with Gina Carano. You know, it's going to be amazing. I'm going to learn so much from her. And I never got to fight with her. We always fought separately, which was really sad for me. But also something that was really wonderful is I never had to fight against her.
Yeah.
You know, because that would have been terrifying. You know, I was just so glad she was on my team.
And Tim actually said, Tim Miller, the director, said that if we would have had like a bigger budget, we would have had that together, which would have been great because we had the chemistry. But
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Do you feel that there was like working with a smaller budget maybe helps adds a little more creativity to it?
You know, every time people say smaller budget, I just think $60 million.
Right?
Like, absolutely not. We are, you know, the first movie that I made, we made it for £150,000. So, you know, it was a huge budget. We had all of the luxuries we needed. Of course, you always want more, and you know, the nature of human nature is you know, greed is intrinsic in that. You know, but we had everything we needed. You know, and I think it was more.
I wanted more.
You wanted triple the wage. You know, you wanted that big, the Ben Stiller trailer. No, but I mean, it was kind of, we had this siege mentality because we were making Deadpool. We were making something that needed to be made and that was very important, you know. And it's a wonderful feeling when you're, you know, you're making a project that feels like it's important to modern pop culture. And when you come somewhere like this, to Comic-Con, and you see how much it means to people, they're queuing up overnight. We've seen people just as Deadpool, old people, young people, kids. We've seen people with Zimmer frames walking along just as Deadpool. So it means so much to them, and you know, I can assure them it means that much to us as well.
Yeah, we feel like we're a part of something.
Yeah.
And, you know, when we were filming, we just kind of started looking around like, oh my gosh, this is special. And hats off to Ryan Reynolds for getting this done, and Tim Miller.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, this is really, it's precious. This is a precious movie. It's going to be awesome.
But that was only the beginning, the fact that they made it. It was the way that Ryan, you know, owned every scene. I mean, he was incredible, man. His comedic side is phenomenal, but what really impressed me and what I enjoyed so much was in the scenes in the workshop. You know, when he was off camera, you know, and he was doing the vulnerable scenes, he would give me so much, you know, and he would give everything emotionally to me so that I could, you know, give my best. And, you know, he's a gentleman and a scholar of the craft, and I learned a lot working with him. And
He goes from 0 to 100.
yeah.
You know, he goes from tears in his eyes to saying the worst thing that you can imagine coming out of his mouth, and you're like, oh, I was feeling bad for a second. Now I feel so bad. Like he's phenomenal.
Now, how close are you guys to the comics, and how much did you know going in, and how much do you know now? Did you like go into it studying?
Ed actually educated. As soon as I landed in Vancouver, I get this phone call, and he takes me to, you know, I'm like, okay, let's see who this guy is, and he like takes me to sushi, and then we go immediately to the comic book store.
To Golden Age Comics,
Yeah.
Vancouver, #1 comic book shop, Hank Patterson.
Hashtag. Yeah, so he took me to my first comic book store, and I bought, you know, a bunch of Deadpool
It was the Daniel Way collection.
Yes. And pretty much he's been brainwashing me ever since.
And it was the same with young Brianna. You know, we did that with her as well. You know, I gave her the 3 Daniel Way collection graphic novels. You know, we had all of them. My hotel room was ridiculous. You couldn't see the table, you couldn't see the floor for Superior, Iron Man, all of the Image stuff. You know, all of the new the Civil War stuff. It was incredible to be able to immerse myself back in that world, because I was a comic book geek when I was younger. I used to go to the conventions back in London when I was like, you know, a 10-year-old. So I used to collect Spawn, you know, and X-Men. And so to be in this world now is a dream come true, you know. And
it rivals Ryan's, you know, and it's actually really beautiful, and it's completely contagious. So we had that, you know, flow going throughout the entire cast and set, and you know, between him, Ryan Reynolds, and Tim Miller. I mean, it was just like the energy was circulating. Like it was really awesome to be a part of.
it was like, you know, the fans got this movie made. You know, when it got leaked, the fans were the ones who was power to the people. You know, it's actually soul affirming that something like that can happen. But that was just the green light. After that, fans made this movie because we are fans, you know, and that's a wonderful thing. It was made for the fans, by the fans, you know. And as you say, if
Fans for life.
exactly, if people weren't fans from the beginning,
People are insane.
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, man. We're gonna be, yeah, we hold a special place in our heart for Deadpool forever, right?
Yeah, for sure.
He's part of the family.
It's exciting to see the, like you said, like kids in Deadpool, even though it's like the foulest child and the most violent, and you know, and they're sticking to that with this. Was that exciting when that was? Did you always know that this was going to be R, or was there ever kind of questions for you?
Well, I didn't really know what I was walking into, but once I got there, I was like, oh my gosh, finally somebody's like making fun of everything that's in these like movies, and you're like. You know, because we're all thinking it when we see these movies, and Deadpool makes fun of it all.
He says exactly. He says what we're thinking, you know, and he you know, we've been in such a wonderful position to have so many superhero movies, you know, for fans such as myself, but also just fans of the entertainment world and action movies, and they've been phenomenal, you know, and we've come so far and we've had so many. We are now at a position where, you know, possibly, you know, we can go a little bit darker, you know, and possibly we can get a little bit darker in some ways and lighter in some ways, and, you know, more self-referential and you know, with the modern pop culture references and stuff, and sort of place them closer to reality. And, you know, I think the people are ready for it. I think modern pop culture is ready for it, and I think we made what the people want.
Deadpool is huge. We know this.
Yes.
But a lot of people don't really know what the inspiration was for you when you created him back during New Mutants. Can you tell me like what the inspiration was to create Deadpool?
Okay, so Deadpool appears in the first my first issue, writing and drawing the New Mutants, and I tell people and in all these Marvel's got a bunch of great history books that they've licensed or put out, and the story's the same in all these. It's great because I own them all. I love comic book history books. But when I was given New Mutants to write and draw, in one of the Marvel books it says, and Liefeld won his showcase, and I always laughed at that. I won my showcase. It's so dramatic. But the year before I had created a character called Cable. New Mutants was about to get canceled. They offered me the book. I said, I'd love to do it if we can change it up. And I proposed this character, Cable, this mysterious futuristic warrior, and he had an agenda for the team and took them in a harder edge, said stop reacting to everything, we're being hunted. Let's be proactive, and let's take down the people who are hunting us before they can find us. And Cable blew up. The reason I'm telling you about Cable is there's no Deadpool without Cable. Cable's success opened the door for me to get the job writing and drawing New Mutants. Fabian Nicieza, I hired him to script over my plots. I tell people because people don't understand comic books, I was the showrunner at that point. And then, you know, you bring in other pieces to round out the product. The most time you're going to spend on a comic book, and writers will tell you this, is the artist has the biggest burden because he has to actually produce the art, 22, 25 pages. So I had crafted a story. I knew this is it. They're giving me my chance to shine, so I'm going to introduce 3 new characters. Deadpool, Domino, and a new bad guy named Gideon that was going to manipulate everybody. But Deadpool was the showcase. That's why he's standing in front of the cover. And he came in, and again, people love Cable. People love the New Mutants. We had like quadrupled sales, and the book was now in the top 3 of Marvel. Here comes Deadpool, comes in, takes out the entire cast effortlessly, kicks everyone's ass, does it with his smart antics, and takes down Cable, who's everybody's hero, because I wanted to send a message like, this is a badass. He is formidable. And the inspiration when I created him was my buddy Todd McFarlane was doing Spider-Man at the time, and if people of that time remember that Spider-Man itself rocketed from the middle of the pack, because the Spider-Man books had kind of fallen in the wake of the X-Men books rising, and Todd would not let Spider-Man be denied, and Spider-Man became phenomenal. And Todd used to joke to me, and he said, you're doing a book with 7 to 8 characters. He goes, why'd you ever do a team book? I do Spider-Man. I draw these big eyes. I do some webs. I do an oval. I'm on to the next page. And I was like, I need another character. I need a character like that. And Todd was like a great coach and kind of a taunter. And I asked my assistant, who had worked with me the other day, to remember. He was a teenager, and he was like, he would rule my lines on my borders and fill in the blacks. I said, hey, what do you remember about when I brought Deadpool in that day? And he's like, oh, Rob, I can tell you right now. You walked in, you pulled out your portfolio, and you said, hey, what do you think of this guy? He's Spider-Man with katanas and machine guns. And that's how I pitched him to Marvel. And Marvel's like, yeah, we're good. And I asked Marvel, I said, because Wolverine has always been my favorite character. And with Cable and Deadpool, I was trying to stick the landing like Wolverine stuck the landing. And to this day, like I said, Wolverine is my favorite. So I was always trying to make the next Wolverine. And to me, Wolverine meant mystery, but a killer visceral, and again, layers that we could unpeel. And I asked them, Wolverine was from Weapon X. And I said, so that Weapon X means 10. And Marvel editorial said, yes. I said, have we ever met Weapon 9, 8, 7, 6, 5? Have we gone back? No. Great. I said, Deadpool is Weapon 9. He is the one that they didn't get it right. They got it right with Wolverine. And then I remember going to see the movie Twins, and I tell this on the convention circuit. And when Arnold and Danny DeVito, because again, from that era, it's Schwarzenegger and DeVito, and you're like, twins, how are they twins? And I remember in the movie, they go, how are we twins? And the doctor said, well, you're all the good stuff, and you're all the crap. And DeVito goes, I'm all the crap. And Schwarzenegger goes, you're the crap. And so Deadpool was the crap. And so that was the basis when I pitched Marvel with Deadpool. They will tell you that New Mutants 98 got the most mail for a new character. They said they were overwhelmed to the point where they called me and said, can you put him in the next issue? The mail on Deadpool, the fans dig him. And I said, I just sent the issue off. I can't put him in. You're getting it tomorrow. Well, how about the next one? And I tell people there's a reason Deadpool started appearing in every other issue of X-Force. The fans demanded it. He has always been, his very existence, he was caught up, he caught the fans' attention, he caught their favor, and they've been running with him ever since. And I think now, if I can jump ahead, the licensors got a hold of him. They did a couple things, a statue, a pop figure, Funko stuff, and I think those sold out. And they go, let's do more. You cannot discount the power of a great visual, and he's a great visual. Swords, machine guns, that costume, and he's a smartass. When I see the Entertainment Weekly cover and it says the smartassiest katana wielding, I'm like, that's Deadpool. So I think it works.
So, and I mean, at this point, I mean, you mentioned how like Wolverine is your favorite character,
Yeah.
and he's so iconic. I mean, it seems like, I mean, really, your goal came true because Deadpool, and in my opinion, and probably most others, is on equal footing with Wolverine at this point in terms of popularity.
He has definitely achieved that.
Right. I mean, he's a household name. I have a 6-year-old. He loves Deadpool.
Yeah.
I mean, he loves it. He's 6.
My kids play soccer. They play basketball, and it was a couple of years ago that one of the moms came across the field and she was coming across with a fury, and I'm like, what's going on? And she goes, hey, did you create this character called Deadpool? And I hadn't told my kids. We had Deadpool stuff around the house, but you're not like, you don't, hey, hello children, your father created this character. That's not how we roll. I'm like, not telling them anything. They're too young. But at this point, and my son goes, Dad, you created Deadpool? I'm like, yeah, thanks, lady. But that was like when I saw that their friends were digging it, and when he really blew up was in Marvel did a Capcom video game, and if you want to tell me when he went nuclear worldwide was when the Capcom versus Marvel video game, Deadpool was the most popular character to play. Everyone just skipped past the menu. You went to Deadpool, and in most cases, kids were playing Deadpool on the Marvel Capcom, and he had the best moves, the best action, and he'd always have a smart crack when he wiped you out. And that was that game, because again, my kids in the neighborhood, my 2 boys would bring their 6 buddies in the neighborhood, and they'd all pop down on the couch, and they'd put it on the big screen, and they would just sit there and play Marvel Capcom Deadpool versus everybody, and I'm Deadpool, and I was like, this is crazy. But stuff enters the zeitgeist, and it just takes off, and then you can't stop it.
It's very similar with the Marvel Lego game too. I mean, Deadpool's like a through line, and I played with my son everything to get every red brick. And my son's like, we need to get Deadpool.
Sure.
So I mean, we invested so many hours of our lives just to unlock this character.
My buddy was a VP. He's now at a different company, but he was a VP at Warner Brothers at the time. And he called me up and he goes, dude, you know how long we've been playing this game to unlock Deadpool? And I'm like, I'm sorry. But yeah, no, they've used him as like a secret weapon, and to spike him, I mean, they'll do Deadpool month covers. So I mean, he has definitely achieved a great, popularity in the business, and I think that the thing I'm most excited about, and it's cool because I was talking to Tim the other day about the visuals in the movie. I'm like, Tim, people talk to me about the costume all the time. It's almost like they didn't believe that they were going to pull the costume off. And I've heard so many people go, oh, the costume's so faithful, it's so faithful. Again, the visual and the costume, the red, the black, it just has a strong connection. And because I asked Tim, I said, hey, we need to get the credits out on who did this and who was the guys who made these costumes, because I mean, it's that the people really react to seeing him, and I just think that they're in for it, man. This movie is going to kick some butt.
So the footage.
Yes.
that was released served kind of as a catalyst to really get the excitement going.
Correct.
And I guess I'm curious how much, because I know that you had said you had seen something at some test footage at some point a long time, and you had been talking about it, and everybody's like, does it really exist? Is Liefeld making this stuff
I
up?
know,
What's
that was
going
hard.
on?
Yep.
But then everybody, was able to see it,
Sure.
and it was like, holy crap. So I'm curious, how much were you involved in that initial
Tim
test
Miller
with Tim?
called me when he got the job in 2010. I was a big fan of his work on the Star Wars video games, the trailers that he made for them. That he did a DC cinematic universe, or their video game universe trailer. So I was a big fan of Tim's. And suddenly I get this email. Rob, it's Tim. I got hired to do Deadpool. Let's get together. Let's talk. I'm so excited. I want to, I wanted to contact you first and let you know what's up. And I want to, make sure that you have access. I was totally floored. I mean, really, he extended me access when he didn't have to. And so I went to Blur, and he showed me the animatics. He showed me what they were planning. And then I was there the day that they go, Rob, do you want to go with us? They were leaving Blur and going down the street to the green screen room to film Ryan doing the stuff. And I said, I'm too nervous. I said, I'm going to go home, and you're going to show me when it's done. And sure enough, 3 months later, he said, Rob, come on up. And now here's what people don't understand. So it's 2015. This is October 2011. I go watch the filmed footage that everyone's seen. And again, that film footage, Ryan, the entire team, I've seen him talk about it. He calls it, the fans saw that film footage and powered this movie through. And I believe that. He is 100% on the mark. Fans, they were, once they were shown it. And that was always the feel amongst everybody who'd seen it. Like, if we could just get it seen. And that footage, I would go up every couple months. Hey, Tim, can I bring a friend? Hey, Tim, can I bring a friend? He has a great theater room at Blur, and he was very kind to me. Always, Rob, bring him on up, bring him on up. I would bring Robert Kirkman from The Walking Dead. I would bring Gina Carano. I'm like, come on, see this. And we would all go and hang out and watch. And obviously Tim was very proud of the work they did. But October 2011, that was finished. And so to finally, have it seen, I started talking about it on the convention trail. And I did sense people were like, you making this up? And I'm like, I'm not this good, man. I'm not this good to break down scene by scene. So it's great that people really powered it based on the film footage. They powered it through, and we've got a movie coming out here in February. And I think people just are not ready for what they're gonna experience. And of course, yes, I'm Rob Liefeld. I'm a homer, right? I mean, what am I gonna do? I would not be this enthusiastic about Deadpool if I did not feel like it was a real game changer. We've had how many Marvel movies? And you gotta understand, I love them all. I love the first Captain America. I love Civil War. I love Avengers. I love Iron Man. They're great movies. They have all subscribed, in my opinion, to a certain point of view. Deadpool is not that point of view. I think audiences are going to get their butts, they're gonna be like, what is this? It's a different flavor. The R rating is setting it apart and making it something that none of these other movies can be. And I think when people, they're gonna be like, what is this flavor? I want this. So I think they're gonna go crazy.
So with Ryan Reynolds playing Deadpool,
Yeah.
What is it about him that you think makes Deadpool? Because he feels like the perfect fit. I
He
can't
is
imagine
Deadpool.
Anybody else.
Oh, Ryan's Deadpool. His entire persona, he just has that wit. He's got that ridiculous humor and wit about him, but then he has the physicality. He's a big dude. When I met him, I was like, oh my gosh, you're such a big guy. And he's like, I am a big guy. And I'm like, you're Deadpool. He's so, but he's got the physicality. He looks great as Deadpool, but he's got that great perspective, point of view. And I'm telling you, you can't just act, you can't fake those one-liners. It's the delivery of the material. And these guys, Tim Miller, Ryan Reynolds, Rhett Reese, and Paul Wernick, they have been in the trenches battling for this for almost 6 years. And it's so awesome to see this come true for them. Like I tell people, I've been the Deadpool guy for 24 years. I walk on the streets of the Comic-Con or wherever, hey, Deadpool guy, hey, Deadpool. I've been that guy for 24 years. I know what it's like. I gave birth to him. They're gonna get to be the Deadpool guys now, and they're gonna get to experience that. And I'm so excited for them because I think it's gonna be awesome. They don't know what's coming. They think they do, but they don't. I tell Paul, I go, get ready. I tell Rhett, get ready to get some get some medication for that hand from all the high fives you're going to get, you know, because there's going to be a lot of high fives coming your way.
So outside of Deadpool, you also have a whole stable of characters. You
Sure.
mentioned Cable before.
Sure.
Like Shatterstar.
Sure.
And a whole bunch of other
All the
guys
X-Force
that came
cast,
through,
yeah.
And then you also have like your image creations
Sure.
and your other creations. And I know you're starting Bloodstrike again.
Relaunched that last week, yes.
Awesome. I mean, so I guess the question is, I mean, are you exploring or attempting, to push those characters to get a big screen appearance, or?
You know what? It's funny. I get that question, and I haven't. I just feel like I'm doing the comics to do the comics. I love comics. That's what I grew up wanting to do. When I came to San Diego in 1981, my dad, I had showed him an ad in the Comic Book Buyer's Guide. And I said, Dad, look at this convention. Look at all these names. George Perez, John Byrne, Chris Claremont. And my dad always said, I don't really get these comics, but I get that you love them and it's your passion. And he was a great guy. We took the train from Orange County down here, and we stayed 2 nights at the Holiday Inn. And so 1981, I came to my first Comic-Con. And I was just blown away by all the comic book creators, because that's all there was. And Hollywood didn't really roll into this place until about 2002. And it's been great. Look, we didn't have comic book movies and comic book TV shows. You know, for us, it was something completely different. And I mean, I got excited when Steve Austin would activate his bionics twice an episode. No. You know, now the stuff you go, what did the Flash just do on TV? You know, so I mean, we're in a different world. So that's obviously co-opted the business quite a bit. But to this day, I just draw the comics. And like when I relaunch something like Bloodstrike, I'm not sure that's adaptable. It's too brutal. There are some stuff that you just go, I'm just gonna have fun on the page and draw and express myself and see if that can excite the consumers of the comic book stores. Because all the other stuff you really don't control. I've had studios come after me. They've optioned my stuff back in the 90s before people kind of knew what they could do. The business had to learn what they could do with these characters. But sometimes when I tell people, a comic is just a comic. You just do it for the comic book. Am I excited about the possibility of these the stuff I created for Marvel? Because that seems inevitable. This era, they've gotten to it. They're right up against the 80s and 90s now, and that's my era. So obviously, you're going to see all those characters over time. I'm fairly confident, as long as they keep making X-Men movies, they're going to keep sharing those characters, and that's going to be a thrill. And I'm so excited because again, I love all parts of it. I love the toys, the statues, the movies. But when it comes to my stuff, I can just control the comic books, and so that's what I do. And it feels like Marvel and DC are trying to stake out so much of the real estate. Like, how exhausting would that be to try and compete? So right now I just do the comics. I focus on the comics, and I'm having a blast. And something like Bloodstrike, which relaunched last week, has already blown up, sold out. I mean, Image says stores were selling out all over the place, and you go, that feels great, because again, that's my passion, is the paper stuff. And so that's what that's about.
Rob, last time we talked,
Yes.
Which was last year here at
Right.
Comic-Con,
Right.
was just before Deadpool came out and all the hype and phenomenon took off. So I'm just curious, for now, what is your reaction to all of this craziness now?
It's like you mentioned, this time last year is where this got the first fan approval, the first overwhelming fan approval, and you could see everybody involved took a deep breath and we may have something here, because that Hall H was crazy, dude. I mean, that Hall H, I was standing off to the side of the stage. A lot of Fox people, Rhett and Paul, who wrote the movie, were there. And when they showed that trailer, and I've been to the Age of Ultron, the rollout of the original Avengers lineup when Downey Jr. came out and rolled them all out. And I mean, I've been on my feet. I've been crazy. But I never saw anything like that. And it's so, revisiting this a year later, it is kind of, you go, it was here that the lightning first struck, and you go, Deadpool's going to be a success. On what level? But you could tell, especially with that last shot that Tim ended the trailer on, with the 3-shot, boom, 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 the headshots. You go, I think the fans were like, we're in for something. Yeah. And so, yeah, dude, after the opening and the ridiculous success Deadpool had, I mean, it's just awesome. I mean, look, I speak and talk to the fans every day, and they are beyond excited. I guess we're 5 months out from when it, debuted, and they still absolutely, I mean, in this hall at Comic-Con, every few feet, I get how much they love the Deadpool movie and how much they love Deadpool. And again, I always say this because I feel it has to be said that it's to the credit of Tim and Rhett and Paul and Ryan. That they're like the Fantastic Four, which is kind of funny. They're like the Fabulous Four for Deadpool, you know. And I'm so excited they're all coming back.
We talked about this last year in terms of like, you know, what a cultural phenomenon was even before the movie hit.
Yeah.
And now it is just like really, really snowballed. So, I mean, did you anticipate that it would take off as big as it is now?
Paul, the people at Fox will tell you I was always the most bullish, and I would sit there and go, I think this movie's going to open at, and I'd give a big number. And I was rebuked and told, hey, don't jinx it, don't jinx it. Because I was just excited, but because this is my everyday life. And last year, especially, I was coming off doing like 19 conventions. So I knew, and again, I've seen all the action figures over 25 years. I've seen the statues, the trading cards. I know what he means to that fan base. And it's always tricky. Are you going to make the right? Look, had they got it wrong, we'd be talking about a whole different kind of disaster. I mean, you'd be talking about all the lights getting shut off, all the switches getting. But no, because it was a success. You know, I've already. When I get here at Comic-Con on Wednesday preview night, I get to see all the stuff that I don't know about it yet that Marvel hasn't let me know is being produced. And so I go, oh, Gentle Giant has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 new Deadpool items. Last year they had 2. Now they're going to 5. Every licensor has definitely upped. So I think, and here's the thing, they're not doing it on the cheap. These are some of the best statues and some of the best action figures they've done to date.
Tell me about Bad Blood, because this is a graphic novel. Is that right?
Brand new graphic novel should be coming out early 2017. I talked to Marvel sales guy a couple times this week, and they're really looking. They've been nothing but ridiculously supportive. I'm telling you, I went to them. I pitched when they approached me last year and said, "Is there a possibility we could do this graphic novel together?" And I was like, I was kind of suspect. Why graphic novel? Like, is that like what you give like the people like to put them over here on the side? Like, you don't want to. And they're like, no, Rob, it's we're doing really good in the bookstores, and in the book market, this is something we really want to get behind. So obviously 100 and some pages is a lot to chew up to bite off. And I teamed with 2 really great guys who are producing the X-Men 92 comic book, and that's Chris Sims and Chad Bowers. And I submitted my story to Marvel and didn't know if they'd approve it because it delves a bit into, I would say, the teen years of Wade Wilson, and we haven't really seen a whole lot of. And they even said, Rob, we don't have reference on him at that time because I wanted to be on model. And they're like, so run with it. But it's about a guy who as a teenager, Wade was familiar with, was somebody he knew, and maybe always looked up to Wade and wanted to emulate him. And we now find out that followed him into the workshop. And so it's a guy who he has tangled with over the years, but has never, the guy shows up, bests him. You'll see a couple of times they interacted where he got the better and then vanished. But he's becoming a more increasing. I don't even want to give you the name of the character, but because he's a brand new character, great new bad guy with some serious tethers to Wade's past. Cool. And a lot of action. One of the adventures we dive into the past with involves Cable and Domino and X-Force. So back in like '92, back in that age, and so they're all very upset to see Deadpool on the mission, and then this new character emerges, and there's a great sequence of Deadpool telling Domino, "You don't remember that this happened?" And then we show from their point of view, like how they were suddenly the bad guys attacked, and Deadpool got pulled in underground, and Domino goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, we were kind of busy over here." And he's like, "I got beaten to the inch of my life," and he's so disgusted with Domino, and they just part ways, and then they meet up later. Look, it's a fun romp. You get the one thing Marvel did tell me, they said, Rob, the great thing is there's no next issue. There's no there's no cliffhanger at 20 pages. You get 100 plus pages to tell your story, and they have been great. And my editor Jordan White, honestly, the other day called me up and said, "Rob, I'm gonna tell you right now, this is the best work you have ever done." And I said, "Dude, to old Rob is happy to hear that, because I'm working hard, man." I had some guys that I looked up to in the business who kind of fell off, and you're like, "What happened, man? Don't you care about your work anymore?" And so I'm at home going, I'm trying to, still, if I'm going to put it on the page, hope that it works out. So very excited about Bad Blood. And like I said, I think that the fact that they let me open the door and tell a little past and introduce this new element is really exciting. It's the most exciting part.
Writers later on that were writing the character on a regular book, they could always pull from aspects from Bad Blood if they're like, hey, we really like that.
100%.
Let's
100%. Let's say Bad Blood is something that people really like. I expect one of the new villains to be an action figure eventually. I expect him to be open to all sorts of different, exploitation. I went in there. Look, when you get to do something like this, you want to make it matter. And again, Chris and Chad and I, we wanted to give the tone of the movie as well. The thing about the movie that separates it from some of the comic product, not all the comic product, in the movie, Ryan is truly the only insane, crazy, outlandish aspect. Like Ajax, Francis, is very serious. He is a very serious guy with an agenda, a mission. You've got all the people that Wade hunts down. They did him wrong. They're bad people. And the only other kind of comedic element in the movie is Colossus, and part of that is from his voice and talks like this. Oh, Wade, why you do? That makes him funny, but he's otherwise a straight guy. True. Sometimes in the comics, it's like dun, 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 dun. It's like wacky tunes, You're like, this is everyone's like tongues out, and so the graphic novel, we're kind of going for the same tone because we would. Obviously, the movie opened up Deadpool to a much bigger audience. Let me tell you something. I'm having dinner last night here in San Diego with some of my wife's friends, and we're in our 40s and 30s, and these 4 wonderful, I'll just call them cougars, were telling me, oh my gosh, we love Deadpool so much. We saw it, and I'm like, and that wouldn't happen to be because of Ryan Reynolds. Or, let's make some connection here. He's obviously a drop of that. Yeah, we saw it because of Ryan. He's so wonderful, but the movie is such a joy. It's such a great. One of the ladies looked dead at me and said, it has such a wonderful love story. And that is what I've always said that Rhett and Paul nailed. They nailed that. That movie has heart, and that is why people responded to it. But so we're trying to go for the heart and emulate because I believe, and I'm sorry if fans disagree with me, the Deadpool movie is the best Deadpool of Deadpool products. Like that's my opinion. I'll stand by it. I've read them all. That doesn't mean the other stuff isn't great. I just think Deadpool is the best. Again, Marvel, that doesn't mean all that stuff isn't great. I love it. I own it. I just think the movie pulled it off in a way that maybe hasn't, taken it to that level. So that's what we're trying for. We're trying to go for more of that tone. And like as I said, you want Deadpool and Moby Dick, that exists. That's there for you. You want cute little Deadpool, there's Funko Pops, in a lot of those Funko Pops.
Yeah, a ton of them.
Yes, more than Hot Topic can put on their shelves at the moment.
Obviously, we know there's going to be a Deadpool 2. Correct. And we know Ryan is going to be a part. We have
us.
Basically the whole, crew is back. And I know you can't talk story and give us, or what direction they're going, but what would you like to see, and what do you feel about, the sequel now that it's coming, in terms of pressure after this one just hit?
I have 2 things that I need to say. How lucky are we, and I'm talking to all of the Deadpool fans out there, how lucky are we that we're getting a sequel? For a year ago, I'm telling you, it was, I'm telling you that the minds at Fox were like, did we make the right decision greenlighting this movie? And then in Hall H said, hell yes, you made the right decision. That was, I just got goosebumps. Hall H was crazy last year. And that's when you went, I think the Hollywood Reporter said how Deadpool won Comic-Con. And you go, I think going in, they really weren't expecting that. And so how lucky are we that this gamble has now turned out to be, I remember going, oh my gosh, okay, so it broke every record for Fox. Opening weekend, 3-day weekend, opening day. And so obviously it's Deadpool. The great thing is it's so valuable to them. And what I mean they just want to protect it and make the best possible follow-up, which is why they secured Tim. And obviously Ryan is coming back, thank God. And they got Rhett and Paul. And like I said, those guys are the Fab Four. And look, we all saw Deadpool, right? And at the end, he looked right at the screen and he told us, we've got Cable. And I think they're negotiating with Keira Knightley so that she can lock up Cable, like Ryan said. No, didn't he say at the end? Didn't he say and Keira Knightley? No. I believe that I'm very excited to see what they come up with.
Rob, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And congrats.
I love you guys.
Oh man, same here. And seriously, congrats on the success of it. Again, I told you before, I grew up I was buying the X-Force
Yes.
and the New Mutants when
sure.
when Deadpool was introduced as a kid off the shelf. So seeing all this happen, not just for you, but like for a fan of myself, it's like at that time when I was reading that book, I never imagined seeing what we saw.
I'm gonna tell you real quick. I'm gonna tell you. I can do this really fast if we're still rolling.
We're good.
Okay, so I went into my storage unit not too long ago, and I didn't realize that I had all the Wizard magazines, and I haven't revisited those in 25 years. And I grabbed like 1 through 20 and 21 through 40. I just took them out of the boxes and I started reading through. And you know what? Anybody who doubts that Deadpool and Cable and X-Force were definitive of an entire generation, just go back. You're like, oh my gosh, Deadpool's in every top 10 list, and you know, X-Force is in every top 10 list, and Deadpool trading cards, Deadpool action figures, people, and that's when, because there's this new fan that wants to go, oh, Deadpool just happened recently. No, it didn't. No, I know. I introduced him. I am aware that he was hot from the beginning, you know, and so it's great that he's been carried over. And like I said, those pretty soon people on social media will be able to revisit those Wizards with me because I'm taking a lot of pictures. I'm just like, I gotta get through Comic-Con, and then I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna load them all because it's funny to see. It's great to see. I'm like, oh my gosh, even I had forgotten how. I'm like, how many weeks in the top 10? How many months did he? I mean, so those books, like you said, and I appreciate seriously everyone who ever bought one. Like a guy today brought me like 10 New Mutants 98s, and he goes, these are all the ones I bought off the rack. And I'm like, dude, you took good care of these. This guy took good care of them. Because honestly, to buy 10 of those now, that's a lot. So I believed him.
Now that you've seen the movie,
Yes.
what are your thoughts?
Okay. Well, first of all, it blew me away. And of course, you're going to say, of course, you're the creator of the character, and of course, you're going to be a homer for it. I called my buddy afterwards, and the first thing he said is, Rob, I can tell by your voice that you are so excited that you loved what you saw, because otherwise you'd be spinning me. Is what he said. And here's the deal. I wouldn't be doing as much press if I didn't believe this movie was that great. This is worth, getting behind 100%. When I read the script, it's a page turner, and not just the dialogue and the action. It's the narrative, and you'll see, audiences will see the way the movie is structured was always extremely fresh and stood out to me. And so, I was on set. I saw a couple days with the filming. I had been talking to Tim for years, but seeing it, I mean, I sat there. I was nervous. Like, is this going to be as good as that script was A++++++, and the movie is A++++.
Nice.
Tim Miller just shot the hell out of this movie. I mean, I leaned over to him. First time I saw it was with Tim, and I said, "No one in this movie has ever been shot better than you've shot them. They all look fantastic, and whether that's look grotesque, they look perfectly grotesque, or look, like Morena, who has never looked better on film ever before. But then the action, I mean, Deadpool's an action film, and I think action fans who want something fresh and want some sequences that they haven't seen before are going to flip out. Because again, back to the script, I'm like, wow, that is amazing. I haven't read that scene before. So I'm telling you, I am so excited for fans to get to see this. I think they're going to be blown away. You will not know that Tim Miller had not shot a film before. This is like a seasoned vet, and look. Blur Studios is going to blow up, and Tim is going to blow up. Ryan's already a big time movie star, and Ryan and Rhett are some of the hottest writers in the business. Tim Miller is the new factor here, and he's like, "Hi, I'm a first-time director." Wow! I think you're just going to be blown away. The humor works, the drama works, the emotion and the action, and it's just great.
Now, why is Ryan Reynolds the guy? What is it about him?
Oh my gosh! Okay, when you meet him, first of all, you're like, "Oh my gosh, you're so much bigger and taller." And look, he has a presence.
He
is this. God made this beautiful man with the most smart-ass tongue. He is got a wit about him, and he is Deadpool. He has got that lightning fast wit and sense of humor, and you combine that with this amazing physical, gift that he's been given, and he commands the screen in this movie as Wade before being Deadpool, as Deadpool, and again, it's how fast my wife said on the drive home after she saw it a week ago, she said, people are going to have to go see this movie multiple times to catch all the jokes. They come at you so fast. There are so many one-liners, and it's fast. When he's insulting you, and the insults back and forth that he's trading, and you're just like, okay, I got to keep up with these jokes. And my wife just can't. I would not have considered her to be the audience for this, but all she does is talk about the joke. She thinks it is, and she's right. It's the funniest. It's one of the humor in it is outstanding. It's a different slice of humor than what we've been given, and certainly like nothing you've seen in a comic book film ever.
Well, I've got to ask, because obviously this isn't the first time we've seen Ryan Reynolds in the role. What was your reaction when you first saw the Wolverine version, the Origins?
Wolverine Origins, I settled into my seat. I was excited. I had seen some of the production and the early stills, and I was a huge Ryan Reynolds fan and thought he was perfectly cast and knew that he would absolutely own the role. And what I tell people is that first 20 minutes that he's in the movie, when he's with Wolverine and they're leading the team, and he cuts that bullet and he's insulting everybody in the elevator, you're so in love with his portrayal. Mm-hmm. You bought it 100%. And that's why, because he pulled off so well in the opening of the film, when they altered him and made him not the Deadpool of the comics, that's why people were so let down. Oh, yeah. Because he sold him, he closed the deal in the first 20 minutes. And then the producers of that movie took a misstep and took the character in the wrong direction. And that's no fault of Ryan's. Ryan immediately was like, let's go back and give them this Deadpool. And so, I watched the first 20 minutes of Wolverine Origins a lot. I can tell you that. I'd be like, the movie kind of ends here. Wolverine Origins is, if you end it when Hugh Jackman gets his adamantium skeleton and just kind of go to the kitchen and not watch the rest of the movie, there's a great 45 minutes.
Well, you could also watch that and then go see this.
I think so. I honestly, literally, I was joking with my buddy. I said I had a dream that the end of Wolverine Origins now has this Deadpool merch, and that's the one that Hugh Jackman fights. So, but look, I really, you have to go, why were people so disappointed? Yeah. And it's because Ryan closed the deal in the first 20 minutes. I'm telling you, everybody got their little moment, but when he steps forward and cuts that bullet in half, that was cool. We haven't seen that. And the two parts of the bullet go and take the guy. You're like, and his dynamic with the team was perfect. He was Wade Wilson. So this is the perfect, imagining of Deadpool on film. This film.
Wow. So this has been a process. It's been a long process to get this film made. Can you talk about the process of bringing it to the big screen?
All I can say is that all along the way, all the right moves were made. Rhett and Paul, I can't imagine anyone else ever writing this movie. Like I said, there's that old adage: if it's not on the page, it's not on the screen. It was on the page to begin with. The script is the piece that everyone rallied around. The script was so good. I'd go out to dinner with my buddies at Marvel Studios, and they'd go, "Hey Rob, we hate to admit this, that Deadpool script kicks ass. Oh my gosh, I think we're gonna have those guys in to talk TV." And I'm like, "Don't do that." Just protecting but rival people in the entertainment industry, they knew how great that Deadpool script was. So then what happened is they got to Tim Miller, and you landed on an ace in the hole. Tim Miller has been seen by this audience, whether they knew it or not, for years on the trailers for video games and the bumpers and all the different things that he's produced and directed for the world of video games. And again, I have two boys. I have three kids. My two boys are avid video gamers, and they live in that space. So let's not underscore and undersell how much video games reach people, because that generation, I am on the record, that generation came to know Deadpool from 4 video games. 4 video games is how they got to have a relationship with this character. They weren't necessarily reading the comic books, but they were playing him in 4 different Marvel-based games over the last 6 years. And so putting Tim on this and giving it his eye and his input, and I know he especially some of the characters, I believe Negasonic Angel Dust are a result of Tim's influence. He implemented those characters to the script, if I'm correct. But again, the visuals. I mean, the action sequences were very detailed in the script, and you had to pull them off right. A lot of people, when you see it, the opening, the absolute opening of the movie, I would say the opening credits scene, which is very special, very fresh and original. That is exactly how it was written. And when I read it, I'm like, wow, this is going to be tough to pull off. And it is a feat. It is right there. You go, this is something pretty special. So along the way, right writer, right director, right star, and then the last piece of the puzzle was Simon Kinberg, who came on board to kind of shape the X-Men films in the last few years, and that's why they're so much better now.
I agree.
Simon, Days of Future Past is the best of all the X-Men films. It certainly did the best at the box office as well. All the films have gone up in quality as a result of Fox giving Simon kind of the reins for the X-Men universe, and Deadpool is no exception. And Tim Miller will tell you, Simon read the script, looked at the pieces of talent around it, and was integral in pushing it forward. So to me, it's landing all the right pieces that matters. So I don't even, the movie's coming out now, I don't even remember like how long. Here's what I tell people: it took Spider-Man like 35 years to get to Skrein or longer. Same with the Avengers. Deadpool's got them beat, so we're good.
That's true. It just seems weird that a studio would take a chance on a director like that. That's unusual.
Isn't it awesome though?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Look, and that's the thing about Fox. When they went in on Deadpool, they went all in.
Yeah.
They said, Tim, you're the director. We're going to make this script as is, with minor character tweaks, but we're going to make this hard R-rated movie. We're going to stand by the R. And then, since they wrapped the movie, I watched a Deadpool testicular cancer PSA.
Right?
I mean,
it's hilarious.
They have gone all in on the marketing, which is equal parts the excellent Fox marketing guys and Ryan, who has imagined a lot of this stuff. So it has been this perfect blend, and they have pushed it all forward. And again, they went all in. You got to give them credit. They didn't go all in and then say, hey, let's what do they call that Miramax guy? The guy who heads Miramax, Scissorhands, because he edits everything so heavily. What's his name?
Shoot.
But it's not like
too early in the morning.
Help me out.
It's
the Weinstein.
Yeah.
Weinstein.
Yeah.
And they call him something Scissorhands. It wasn't like Fox put it through, and then when they got it, they said, hey, No, they have let it all come together under the influence of this director, this writer, this star. And Ryan's also a producer. People forget Ryan's a producer on this film, so he had a lot to do in protecting it and protecting its the purity of the product you're going to see. Because it's like nothing. It is, you know what? So check this out. So I've read the script. I'm on the set, all this stuff, and the night I see it, Tim Miller puts his hand on my shoulder and he goes, Rob, just be prepared. This is a different film. I said, Tim, I'm aware. He goes, I just want you to, it's a weird film. It's different. And I think it's kind of like, you haven't seen this before. And that's why people love it. It is fresh. This is the new flavor for comic book films. And I can say that having seen it twice.
Yeah.
And watching first with a test audience and then with a fan audience. And both raved. Completely different people off the street than selected comic book fans. And they both exploded and gave it the exact same reaction, because at the end of the day, it's just a really good movie.
Yeah.
It's not just a good comic book movie. It's a really good film. And really good films find their place. And this is, so I'm very bullish. I've seen the product. I've seen how the great thing about the movie is it's lean and mean. Nothing in the movie is bloated. It just moves. It's got a frantic pace, and everyone gives fantastic performances. And people are going to be in a real treat, especially for Colossus, who again reminds you, hey, this is an X-Men film, and this is the most different X-Men film you've seen to date. And Colossus, I think he's as much of a scene stealer as Deadpool himself, and you'll see.
Well, I've got to ask also, which X-Force characters would you like to see continuing on for a Deadpool sequel?
You know what? I listen to the fans, and certainly everyone goes, well, everyone always asks me, well, how did you get to Deadpool?
Yeah.
And you don't get to Deadpool without Cable. and my hope is that someday he gets his chance to shine.
Yeah.
Hopefully with Ryan's Deadpool. So then after that, look, Domino is a fantastic character. She has a huge fan following as well. I was at several shows. I did 19 conventions last year. I went out and just said, I'm going to go to places I haven't been before. So I went to Wisconsin. I went to Raleigh, North Carolina. I went to Cleveland, Ohio. I'd never been to Cleveland. I went to Oklahoma City. I went to Fort Lauderdale. I mean, I was like, where haven't I been? I have at the time I had a 28-year career. Now I'm in my 29th year. But I was like, I always do New York and LA. Let me schedule. I did Houston, I did Vegas, I did Phoenix. So I mean, I did a lot. I did Hawaii. Now you go, oh, Rob, woe was you, you did Hawaii. I've never done a comic book convention in Hawaii. And it was one of the biggest shows that I attended last year. Those fans were so crazy about this stuff. And they bring me their X-Force comics and their New Mutants comics, and you see the electricity in their faces. And they are reliving that energy with me at that moment, and it's very exciting. And so it's, Fox has a tremendous catalog of these characters that they have yet to activate. And they will see if they activate these characters that the fans are tremendously excited. Because the thing about Deadpool and about Cable, all the X-Force characters, when they came out, when they hit the scene, those books were at the top of the charts. Mm-hmm. And when comics had the most eyeballs were on these characters because they were at the top of the charts. And so those fans, I meet them, hey Rob, I'm 36 and I was 15 when I bought your comics, and I want you to meet my son, and he's clutching onto a Deadpool action figure in one hand and a bobblehead in the other. And that's exciting, man. That's tremendously exciting. It just shows you that there's a legacy of these characters that's been passed down. And my dad gave me his comics collection. I got old Captain America's, and I got old Thor magazines, and I've secured all my comics to go to my kids. And that's what you do. You trade your stuff down. And there's fans who are actively awaiting this kind of stuff. When I was on the convention trail, I mean, thousands of Deadpool cosplayers, but also Cables. And then the one that really blew me away last year, I saw a lot of Dominoes, a lot of Domino ladies, and they rock that costume fantastically. So it's when you see them walking around in flesh and blood, it kind of activates. You're like, wow, there's 10 Dominoes gathered at this show. I wonder what that would be like to be on screen. So it's just fun. Like I said, I love all the stuff I did. I created 30 characters in my 2.5 years. They told me I could repaint the house. They told me basically the New Mutants was going to get the lights shut off, that it was kind of the dog of the office. They had offered me some of the better selling X-Men books, and I didn't want to do those because I thought those were bad career moves, because I wasn't ready to follow the footsteps of the greats. But the New Mutants was definitely a fixer-upper, and they all but told me, if it doesn't work out, we're going to turn the lights off, do whatever you want. Wow. Fill it up with your ideas, take it in a new direction. And if you look at New Mutants before I came on, it was a goofy book. There was a big talking bird called Bird Brain. There was a crazy schizophrenic cyborg, a warlock. It was a very silly book, and it didn't connect the way the other X-Men books were, because the other X-Men books had more consequences. They felt like they mattered more in the universe, and then New Mutants was kind of silly. And they allowed me to introduce Cable, who walks into their lives and says, I'm from the future. I know how all of you die, and you're all doing it wrong, and we need to fight now to survive. And that ticks sales up, boom, 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 boom. We went from the dog of the office to the top of the office, fighting it out for X-Men for the top of the sales. And again, they rewarded me, allowing me to write the book completely, story by, art by Rob Liefeld, and I knew I needed to follow up Cable, so I introduced Deadpool, Domino, Gideon, who was kind of the puppet master pulling the strings, and the reaction. Marvel called me a week after this book came out, and again, we're talking 25 years ago, and your viewers and your readers on the site need to understand this, that there is no computer scanning and loading of files. There is no Dropbox. There is no there's no cell phones, no smartphones. I mean, I was the first guy with a fax machine. and I had to tell Marvel what a fax machine was. And I'm like, how are you in New York City and you don't know? And they're like, what is fax machine? And I'd be like, it's awesome. I can start sending stuff to you and you get it in seconds instead of 2-day FedEx. That's all we had. We had FedEx, snail mail, and then fax. And myself and Jim Lee got the first fax machines in the business, and because we were first adopters, and we started faxing each other. And then we said it'd make our lives a whole lot easier if you got one. Bottom line, I would, by that time, fax my designs, fax my storylines over. They'd approve them. I'd go, but the mail would take a week to come in, and my editor called me and said, "Can you put Deadpool in the next issue right now?" And I'm like, I just sent you the next issue. You'll get it. It's 2-day FedEx. You'll get it, in the next couple of days. And I said, why? He goes, Rob, we've never gotten as much mail on a new character as we've gotten on Deadpool, not in 15 years. He said people, reacted strongly to him. Fan demand is crazy. And look, he walks into the issue and he takes down everybody. There's nothing better. We spent a year building up Cable and the New Mutants and turning them into a fighting force. And in one issue, Deadpool walks in and takes them all down individually and is lording over Cable like, I came for you to pay your debts. And that's a powerful, so now he has history with Cable, history with the team. And so, I think that's an automatic, that's a connection with fans, because then who's this guy who took down our heroes? And that started Deadpool's run, because we did move up a storyline based on fan reaction, and that's why he is a trading card in X-Force #1, and he is got a huge devoted page in X-Force #1 where he's not really in the story, but X-Force #2, which sold 1.5 million copies and was the #1 book of the month, he's the first 12 pages. You go, oh, so X-Force is at the end of the book. This Deadpool character is now, we pushed his story forward, and that's why he's in X-Force 4 and 7 and 10, and he became very prominent because fans demanded it. And I just sit there and I go, fans wouldn't let this movie not be made, fans wouldn't let Deadpool not be prominent, and he's always been carried by the fans. So, I think the other characters are in for the same treatment if they make it that far.
I hope so.
Yeah.
What are you? How much are you going to be involved in the future films? Do you think?
As much as they ask me to. I'm not a filmmaker. I'm a comic book guy. I've enjoyed the relationship I have with everybody. They'll tell you I'm kind of a cheerleader. I don't try and over involve myself. I think I've lived in Southern California my whole life. Have family in the business. You kind of just understand that you're fortunate, again, to luck out and get a Tim Miller, a Simon Kinberg, a Rhett Paul, a Ryan Reynolds to conduct the orchestra, and you just kind of sit back and you enjoy that. And I don't know what kind of it's not my style to try and go and enforce my influence. They've been very, very welcome to me from day one. In 2009, summer 2009, the Donners, who were on the account at the time, called me up, said, Rob, we know we want to do better by Deadpool, and could you come up and can we talk Deadpool with you as we now pursue this solo film? Wow. And I sat there with Lauren Schuler Donner and about 8 people scribbling on notepads, and we talked, don't do that. No, do that. Yes, do this. No, don't involve her. And these are characters I'm talking about.
Wow,
because they kind of wanted, like, okay, we know we could have done better with Deadpool. We've heard the fans. We want to do right by Deadpool now. And they had contacted me. I came up there. I was more than happy to interact with them. Then, about a month or so later, I read that they had hired the Zombieland writers. And Zombieland, I had already seen like 3 times in the theater, because I couldn't believe how fresh it was and how it took the piss out of that entire genre while being a fantastic adventure film. So I knew Paul and Rhett. Oh my gosh, the movie's in great hands. And like I said, but I was not prepared for that script. I'm like, this is crazy. How is this good and bold and fresh?
Yeah.
And again, it's on the screen, and so I think that's what people are going to react to.
Well, it's really hard to make a bold and fresh.
It is.
Superhero movie, especially because you hit all those typical. Okay, we gotta go there. We gotta go there. This doesn't seem to go there at all.
Well, it definitely marches to its own drummer. I mean, it's got its own beat. And look, after the fan screening, this is here's my 2 best stories that I love my buddy Robert Kirkman and of course the Godfather of comics, Stan Lee. Robert walked in to the lobby, and I thought, oh, this is great. I'll introduce him to Paul and Rhett since they did Zombieland, and he's Walking Dead guy. And he said, hey everybody, how you doing? And he looked at Paul and Rhett and he goes, I gotta tell you,
Rob's hyped the shit out of this movie, and I don't know if it's going to meet expectations. I mean, you should hear this guy. Oh my God. All he does is hype the shit out of this movie, so that's a high bar. And I'm like, wow, thanks, asshole. You know, thanks. That's exactly what Paul and Rhett wanted to hear. Everyone's kind of, how are the things going to, and Robert walks in like, okay, after the film, I walk over to Robert, and I said, and, Rob, it was great. That movie is great. It's spectacular. It's everything you said. And here's what I want to tell people. If you go back on Robert Kirkman's timeline, it's whatever the Tuesday, January, whatever, after he saw the film, he tweeted. Robert Kirkman doesn't tweet a lot. He is kind of a very selective tweeter. He gave 4 shout-outs to the Deadpool film that day. His sheer enthusiasm. Even his last one's like, I know I'm tweeting about Deadpool again, but forgive me. It's awesome! So there's that, and then there's Stan Lee, who he sat down next to me, and Stan, I've done a million shows with Stan.
Yeah.
And he was shaking, but not in a way that should concern you. It was excitement. And they said, Stan, what did you think? And he said, turned to Tim, and he said, that was one of the greatest movies I've ever seen or ever been directed, and you're a great director. And Tim goes, okay, and yeah, I'm waiting. And there was silence. Tim, it's just a compliment. There's no punchline coming. You go, really? And Stan goes, that movie is terrific. And afterwards, he grabbed my shoulders and he goes, it's a game changer. Deadpool is a game changer. And I honestly, they have made a movie that is going to influence from that going forth. I think it's going to have the same impact that 2008's Iron Man did. Because that kind of reset the clock on comic book films. We had about 6-7 years of comic book films, 3 X-Men, 3 Spider-Man, some Fantastic Four. Nolan started as Batman, but then 2008, Iron Man, I think everyone's like, we weren't prepared for the awesomeness of that first Iron Man movie. Which is, again, it's lean and mean, it's got great dialogue, it's tight, big performance by Downey Jr. This has that. Ryan, no one is going to know Deadpool other than Ryan after this. I mean, it's like Ryan's Deadpool is going to be the Deadpool for the next 20 years or as long as he is playing Deadpool. And good luck. I mean, he is Deadpool, and the kids who get to see who get into the screening, and the teenagers and the adults. When my mom's telling me she's going to see Iron Man, I know she's going to see Robert Downey Jr. She's not going to see Iron Man. No. Ryan Reynolds is going to own this in a way that few people have owned those roles, and I mean, and how Iron Man reset on a more intelligent comic book film, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Deadpool is going to change what is possible in a comic book film, from the adult content to the level of violence. Because, brother, I see all the Marvel films. I see them 2 or 3 times. They get my money. Mm-hmm. I got 5 people in my family, 3 kids, me and my wife. So we're dropping $50-$60 every time.
Yeah.
And so Marvel, you get my money. I go. I see Age of Ultron on a Thursday night screening. I go on Saturday, and then I generally go Monday. I consume fast. I want to be in on the. I want to experience the whole thing. And it's been many years of that, right? Yeah. But what happens in those movies is it's armored guy versus armored guy. Clank, 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 clank. If you close your eyes, the thing you're going to hear the most in those movies is clank. Mm-hmm. Clank, 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 clank. This is a new flavor. And I grew up, loved Star Wars when I was a kid, saw it 35 times, summer 1977, but as I got older, I went to Alien and Aliens and Terminator 2 and Predator and all the Lethal Weapons, which were R, and the Die Hards, which were R. People forget that all these kick-ass action movies were R-rated movies. Mm-hmm. And so now we've gotten into this family film space of comic book movies, and Deadpool is going to break that, and I guarantee you are going to see an echo of it, I believe, immediately. That's how powerful it is.
I hope so. I would love to see more adult, serious, intense it's violent, whether it's be violence, whatever.
Sure. Credit where it's due. They made the best Deadpool I've ever experienced. And that's, I have all those video games. I have all the comics. I enjoy Deadpool. I benefit off of Deadpool. This is, you gotta, game recognizes game. You gotta go, you're the best. You win, you get the trophy, you're the best Deadpool ever. And it's exciting. It's
but I'm just happy for all those guys because this is an influencer. Its influence will be felt immediately.
God, I can't wait to see it tomorrow.
I can't wait for you to see it. I can't wait for you to see it. You're gonna love it.
Well, I'm gonna ask this a little fun question. What's your coming from your position?
Sure.
What's your favorite Deadpool variant?
Well, here's I try and be pretty judicious because I know everybody who works on these books. I mean, I like them all. I know but if they're on my shelf, I like them all.
Yeah.
And if you saw my house, we have turned into a full-time Deadpool retail operation because I have stopped buying everything because there's so much. But my wife did not get the memo, and so she'll come back, and I'm like, wait, why do you have the entire retail display of the Deadpool bobbleheads from Target? They sold it to me, but now no one can buy them. You bought everything in the store. I know, I just wanted them all. No, you can't do it. I'm like even with comics, if I see like there's only one left, and I generally buy 2 copies, or there's 2 and I leave one. I'm like, no, somebody else is gonna get this. There is so much Deadpool product right now. I don't know if you're aware.
Yeah.
Again, I go back to I have 3 kids. I had to go buy a suit for my son last week for his winter formal coming up. And so we're walking through the mall. I turn left and I pass Hot Topics, and it's giant Deadpool display with its Deadpool watches, Deadpool ties, Deadpool belts, Deadpool bobbleheads, Deadpool t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, underwear. And then I go, okay, well, that's pretty cool. And I have to tell my wife, we're not buying this, move on. Because she's like, how about just that? No. And then we move around to the corner, and there's Spencer's, and they have a giant window display, and of course they have all different variations on everything I just told you because they've bought their own select bunch of stuff. And then I go, okay, well, we're safe. We can go into GameStop real quick and check out one of the games. Look, oh crap, there's all this Deadpool stuff. My son's name is Luke. There's Deadpool stuff in GameStop. So you can't not encounter the Deadpool stuff. And I love, look, when the kids are clutching their pop bobblehead and they tell me this is their favorite Deadpool, who am I to argue? Yeah. Good for you. The great thing is, I caught lightning in a bottle. This one of, if not my best character design costume, red and black, nailed it. He looks great as everything. He looks great as a bobblehead, as an action figure, as a statue.
I agree.
In movement on the video games, he's very bold and recognizable. So it's just fun to see all the different versions of him. So I truly can tell you, I do enjoy them all. My nephew and I were fishing 2 years ago. We do an annual family fishing trip, and he says, "Hey, Uncle Rob, I want to talk to you about Deadpool." I'm like, "Oh, he's 10 years old. I didn't know you knew about Deadpool." "Oh, yeah, I love Deadpool." I go, "What Deadpool do you love?" "I love Deadpool versus Moby Dick." And I wasn't ready for that, but he's 10. He's right. Yeah, I'm not going to tell him he's wrong. I said, "Caden, that's awesome. What other Deadpools?" "There's a Deadpool William Tell. I love that too." And I'm like, dude, hats off to Marvel. Congratulations, Marvel Comics. You have succeeded in giving a Deadpool to everybody. You know, they do really have a spectrum. There's, your general audience, Deadpool that comes out regularly. Then they do their Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, which is super meta. Then they do, Deadpool Classics Illustrated, where he walks through, Moby Dick, and he walks through William Tell. And then I was part of a crew that put Deadpool in space with the Deadpool Corps. So, I mean, and again, that was fun. 20 years in, I'm like, let's do it. That's fun. Let's take him to the next level. And whether it's, again, the video games, as a Deadpool Lego, I had a president of another studio who I have known for quite some time, for the last 20 years. He has ascended to the top of the heap of another studio, call me up in a frantic, Rob, do you have access to the codes to unlock Deadpool in the Lego game? Because my kids have been playing it for days, and that's all we want, and you don't get it until you get to the end of the game. Is there any way you have the inside juice? And I'm like, buddy, I love you. I can't help you. I don't have that clearance. You're going to have to play the game. And of course, like 5 days later, we finally unlocked him, and now all they do is play Deadpool. So you go, Deadpool Lego. He looks fantastic as a Lego.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought? So and again, to see him interact with kids who have found him in video games. So it's just been a blast. It's a great ride.
Well, it's awesome, and I'm going to finish up with one last question.
Okay.
What would your ideal sequel be?
There are so many great ideas for a sequel, and what I have been told
by the production team is when I talk, I get in trouble. And so I cannot answer that. Because I'll tell you, and then it'll be blasted everywhere, that Liefeld says this is the ideal sequel. And then I'm in trouble. So I have to defer and say that I can't answer that. And I just know that there is plenty of great material and that the fans... Let me answer that with this. This is not a movie. You can't buy this Deadpool movie in a comic book. It doesn't exist. You can't walk into Monday afterwards or Friday night after the screening and say, "Hey, comic book guy, I want that." It doesn't exist.
I want that story.
They mashed up an era's worth of Deadpool stories. I created Deadpool. I created Vanessa. I never pulled them off like this. This is a beautiful love story that drives this crazy comic tragedy, zany adventure. You know, again, talent and credit where it's due. Rhett, Paul, Ryan, they created. There's no story where Colossus interacts with Deadpool like this, and Deadpool doesn't interact with Negasonic and Angel Dust, and he has a conflict with Ajax, and they took the spark of that and they built out in his origin. They made his origin better. You know, and it's what I tell people. When I went and saw Christopher Reeve's Superman, that was not a Superman story that I could buy in a comic. Gene Hackman's portrayal of Lex Luthor was nothing like anything you had gotten up till 1978.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, this is not the Luthor I know, but it may be my favorite Luthor. Christopher Nolan's first Batman Begins, Ra's al Ghul didn't train him in the Himalayas in any comic that I had read, but I like that person.
Yeah,
the best.
absolutely.
And so hats off to these guys. So I'm excited to see what they come up with the sequel because they shot from the hip here. They took, there's elements that you'll go, that's from the comic, but the large majority of it, they made a great film. They took the Deadpool, the spirit of the character, and the pieces they needed, and they created an original narrative. And so I believe that we're in for the same ride on the sequel.
That's fantastic. I'm going to ask one more.
Sure.
Because I want to, you're back to drawing Deadpool again.
Yes, sir.
What direction are you going to go in?
I'll be honest. I having known what's coming, and here's the deal. I'm doing a 100 and some page graphic novel. Marvel said, "Hey, Rob, we want you to do one of our prestige format Deadpools," and I'm like, "Oh, fantastic!" So I have really, if I showed you the pages, and I put some online occasionally, and they are. I really am pouring everything I have. Me and my team are pouring everything we have into this. But the idea was, I've always wanted to fill in the gaps between. What happened after Deadpool entered the Weapon K or the workshop and was transformed, and were there other relationships and other people, as we know he's a mercenary, and other people who maybe had a different agenda who followed him into that program and tried to duplicate what he had become. And so it's it introduces a character from his past who he's encountered before, but the readers haven't seen it. And it's kind of a Sins of the Past story that catches up with Deadpool, but I mean it opens with Deadpool racing across the New York skyline going, holy shit, I can't shake this guy. And you'll see who the guy he can't shake is. And like, I mean, he does everything to try and shake this guy, but it's very funny, and I'm working with two great guys who wrote X-Men 92, Chad Bowers and Chris Sims, because again, just like back in '98, I don't have time to script this thing.
Yeah.
I can give you the story, the intent, the character motivation. I wrote out a detailed plot and shot it over to Marvel, and they said, we think you'd work fantastically with these guys, because I said, I don't want to script them. They just are good joke writers, snappy pattern. I have great ideas. I think that the dialogue coming out of the mouth is best served by getting guys who do that really well and who nail it on the page. And so they're like the polishers. And so I'm working with those guys, but should be out summertime. Marvel has thrown all their support behind it, and I'm very excited because I really am inspired by what this has been in its inception, and obviously now, I wrote everybody, I go, guys, thank you for inspiring everybody who's going to touch Deadpool from now on, because everybody, once they see this, is going to approach Deadpool with this in their mind, first and foremost.
So excited!
Yeah, you're gonna love it. You're gonna really enjoy it. I'm confident of that.
Oh, I'm 100%.
If I could beat Robert Kirkman's expectations, I can beat yours. So,
Ben, well,
hey,
dude,
great talking
always
to you.
a pleasure.
Great talking.
Man.
Thanks for making your way over here.